Kei aku tamarahi ki te rangi, rarau mai ki te whakamininga o ngā amokura o te motu ki Waitangi. Welcome to Mata with me, Mihi Ngārangi Forbes, brought to you by Te Māngai, Pāho and Irirangi Te Motu. To share his views on the Crown Māori relationships, I'm joined now by Minister for Māori Development, Tama Potaka. Tēnā koe te minita.
Tēnā koe kei taku rangatira.
Ko whai wā koe ki te kōrero kia mātou o Mata, tēnā koe. You just come hot off the pai. Tense? Was it tense? Could you talk us through what happened for those who weren't there?
You know, the kawa of Ngapuhi and the tikanga of Ngapuhi was undertaken. I found the tūtaua to be extremely assertive but exuberant and brilliant. You know, I always appreciate coming up and seeing the tūtaua led by their hoia and really acknowledge them and the parika rangaranga who have welcomed us. And of course on the pai there were some tense moments. There was only one initial speaker from the taumata, then various political parties had representatives speak, and of course Hone Sadler finished it. But there were moments where I thought there was tension, but it's the tikanga that the taumata have supported. They have asked us to come, they've sent the tono. We've come with our respectful dialogue as the government, but more importantly for me as the National Party, and we've presented and we've had that communication. And actually is part of a broader sweep of kōrero that we have during the week and during the year.
You would have expected it though, with the last year in politics, the hikoi or the huia motu. What did you say in your kōrero?
Well, certainly acknowledge that we have come as a parliament with 5 of the 6 parties that were represented in our ope today, and the Speaker of the House, Jerry Brownlee, the Māngai of the whare. I then acknowledge those that have passed. There have been many people that have passed over the last month or two, but particularly the Dames, Tariana Turia and Iritana, who tawhiwhirangi, both of whom were exuberant epitomes of tino rangatiratanga, staunch to their word, but also staunch to the view that no te Māori, mā te Māori, mō te Māori, mō te katoa, is something that we should celebrate, and I believe in that as well, whether or not it's economic, social, cultural, environmental. The country can only really succeed and achieve its potential if Māori succeed.
Tēnā koe e whai whakaro ki a rāua tahi.
Yeah, and I went on to other comments, particularly about the treaty and the need for us to ensure that we understand tino rangatiratanga is not from the treaty or from the government. It actually existed before and it will continue. It will never die, it will never conclude. And the final comment is that there have been many people who have accused me of being a traitor and treasonous and used the word kupapa. And I said, no, I am undertaking kupapa services as a verb. I kupapa to the kaupapa. I kupapa to the mahi that people here in Te Tai Tokoro wish to undertake, whether or not that's supporting Te Ti Waitangi Marae opening, the return of Kororipo Pā as a catalyst for the Ngapuhi settlement, the return of the Kaitai airport to implement the settlements up in Te Hiku, or attending Māori tourism businesses and other things that we've done over the last couple of days here in the mid-north, out at Hokianga and Kāwiti and other places.
Do those kupu, those words, weigh heavy on you?
No, because actually the verb and the notion of service to the people is what kupapa can mean. So the
Do you think that's what they mean though?
Well, I don't know what they mean. You'll have to talk with them about that, but I know what I mean.
So you're not worried about the words that are directed at you?
No, I'm really worried about the outcomes that I can facilitate and the responsibilities that I've had, and also ensuring that I can work very closely with not just the leadership but the people of Ngapuhi and other iwi throughout the country to ensure that we facilitate outcomes for all.
There's been a lot of kōrero about the Treaty Principles Bill in the last year, and more in the last 2 weeks or so. Absolutely. Since it's been in Select Committee and then again here at Waitangi. When you're asked about it, you say that there's a coalition agreement, and e here ana koutou ki te rā kawinata. Some here at the iwi leaders say that, you know, you hold the coalition agreement so high that you've forgotten about the mana of the treaty. What's your response to that?
Oh, I think that's a very genuinely held and respectfully held concern, and certainly the spirit and the substance of all communications to me about the Treaty Principles Bill is one of aghast and severe disappointment and we saw the rangi Māori and the rongomau come through the hikoi, and I acknowledged the hikoi and toitu te tiriti for their mahi. And it wasn't just mahi for Māori, but it was mahi ngātahi with a lot of people involved in that. And I really felt the rangi Māori moment down in Tama Potaka when the hikoi came. The other couple of observations I'd make is that the National Party does not agree with either the Treaty Principles Bill going beyond second reading, but ultimately the substance of that bill, which does nothing to address long-standing concerns, complex issues, and more importantly, what we're on about, getting the economy moving and public services moving. These issues are not to be trifled with, and hence why we will vote that down at the second reading.
But nonetheless, you know, your party and you have entertained it because you voted to introduce it into Parliament. A year ago we saw the first hui a motu and then successive ones all through the year, followed with, as you say, the hikoi to Parliament. And all that emotion and mamai and concern, has it been worth it for your party? Because this isn't even the National Party's policy.
No, I understand that, but we, as a party, our leadership agreed to take it through to the select committee process, and again the select committee process has seen an absolute concentration of effort by many hundreds of thousands of people, most of whom I understand are absolutely rejecting the treaty principles, and I really respect that, acknowledge that, and ultimately we took all that and we were rejected.
The last time we spoke, the Treaty Principles Bill was still in draft form, and you said you couldn't critique it because it was in draft form, which was fair. You've now had time to have a look over it. And in those three articles or principles or whatever people are calling them, what do you make of them now?
Of the three principles? Well, I think people are very well aware of my views that they completely misinterpret Te Tiriti and the treaty and the principles that go with it. It does nothing to advance equality of opportunity and equal citizenship, which is a key value that the National Party holds and which I hold. There's a whawhai that I have is to make sure that we engender, drive, catalyse, facilitate that equality of opportunity and equal citizenship, and we're far from it. That's what Taha Pirana, who along with Tauhinare got the whare back here moving again, wrote about with the price of citizenship for the Second World War. And that price is still yet to be paid.
As the Minister for Māori Development, would you agree that part of your role is to ensure the integrity of taonga Māori?
Taonga Māori?
Yeah, like the treaty, like te reo and all these things.
Absolutely, and I advocate very strongly and carefully, respectfully, but also assertively about the need to ensure that we are very staunch in our defence of Te Tiriti and the Treaty of Waitangi, but also
does this bill uphold the treaty? Does it the integrity of Te Tiriti? And by you voting for it, are you then upholding the integrity of Te Tiriti?
Yeah, and also interrogative about what the principles are. Let's not confuse the principles with the actual text of the treaty and Te Tiriti of Waitangi. That's something that I think we have to be very, very mindful of. But certainly in our experience and our reflection, right now, we have to get that economy moving, we have to get the public services moving, and we have to absolutely respect the treaty as the founding document of our country.
Just finally, one of the other bills that people are concerned about is the Regulatory Standards Bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I look at the treaty, I think it's called the TIA, the assessment of the bill in terms of the treaty.
RA.
Yeah, it says that it's basically silent on how it would honour the treaty. Will you get to make some changes? Are you going to support it?
There's various opportunities along the way for amendments and changes to be made. But as you know, the judicial interpretation where things are silent is that they should be interpreted inconsistently with treaty principles.
So as it is now, you support that bill, the Regulatory Standards Bill?
Well, you're very well aware of our party's position on it. But there's a tāre te wā, ka mohi. Kia ora.
Kia ora, tēnā koe te minita. Ko Tama Potaka tērā. Next, I speak with Treaty Negotiations Minister, Paul Goldsmith. Tēnā koe e te minita. It's a pleasure to have your company. 185 years since the signing of Te Tiriti. We're here at Waitangi. How important is it to be here on the whenua, celebrating with the people?
Oh, it's a wonderful occasion and a tradition that has developed over the years, and a very unique blend of welcome, confrontation, vigorous confrontation, and strong speeches, and then ending with the hongi and hopefully soon some kai. And so it's a combination of confrontation, conversation, and also aroha, love, which is kind of unique, and every time it's slightly different.
Because you were a historian in a former life.
Yes.
So this is kind of like it all coming, alive, really. Is it a privilege, to experience it as a member of the Crown?
Yes. I've been coming for a decade or so now, and seen different iterations. And yes, it is a privilege. And for everybody, you hear things that you don't agree with, and sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it's you feel like, boy, we've got challenges, and we're talking past each other, and there's a lot more to consider. Other times you come away feeling hopeful that we're making progress. And so, it's a time when there's always a bit of emotion, because it's a special time.
We're in Ngapuhi country, so there'll be some expectation around the settlement.
Yep.
You've said, I heard a speech that you said that 2025 is actually about the treaty settlement portfolio. You want to get some things done. What are the plans?
Well, obviously, we've indicated all along that we're very keen to make progress on Ngapuhi. We signalled at the start of the week with a ceremony at Kororipo Pā, which is a very special site for many across Ngapuhi. It was one of the pā that Tongi Hika used in the 1820s. Right beside, New Zealanders will recognise the stone store in Kirikiri. It's right adjacent to that, and we're in the process of returning that pā site to Ngāti Rea here as kaitiaki for the broader Ngapuhi group, as a kind of an on-account return for the broader settlement. And as I indicated, when I handed it over, well, it could either just be a nice thing that's happened, which didn't lead to anything further, or it could, really be the start of significant progress towards a broader Ngapuhi settlement. And it's up to us. It's up to the people here today to decide whether they want to go forward or not. We can't force it, but we're going to very keen to if people do want to.
What do you think's impeding the progress?
There's a variety of views. There are some who want it to happen yesterday. There are some who are beating down the door saying, "Come on, we want to do this," and there are others who say, "Never, never, never." And there's some in between. And so my sense is that more people are shifting to the side to say, "Yes, come on, let's get started, and let's find a way through that." But there's still obstacles to overcome.
When it comes to, there's been a lot of kōrero lately about the Treaty Principles Bill. When it comes to discussions around the meaning of te tiriti, you've said that the Treaty Principles Bill is a crude process. What's the better way?
Well, what I referred to was for a party to define those principles, and then to just have a referendum where a majority can say yes, and it's going to change that. I don't think that's a way that will settle things long term, because there would be many, I think, who feel like that it was imposed upon them. But I think it is absolutely appropriate for us as a nation and people to be talking about, well, what does the treaty mean in 2025 and going forward to 2040 in a modern democratic society, and what do the principles they're not set in stone and never to be debated. It's absolutely appropriate for us to debate what that means, we're not in favour of the bill, but we should be talking about these issues.
And New Zealanders have been, and they want to talk about te tiriti. They've been doing it for decades and decades, 185 years to be frank.
And there's a wide variety of views.
It is, but by the government voting to introduce the Treaty Principles Bill, it really set in stone, the hui a motu. It galvanised tens of thousands of New Zealanders to march to Parliament. Has it all been worth it?
Well, look, it's been an opportunity for, particularly the Māori Party to really
No, but for the
push
Crown,
it.
I mean, you as Treaty Crown
Yes.
Minister,
Yes.
I mean, has it been worth it? There's
well,
such
look,
bad feeling within the partnership now.
Yes, but look, it's part of the coalition agreement. We came. This is what the people of New Zealand they voted, and the cards fell, such as that there were three parties needed to form a government, and this was what the ACT Party wanted, and we indicated all along that we weren't wildly enthusiastic about the Principles Bill, but we're prepared to send it to Select Committee, and it will go no further. And so there's a lot of I think Shane Jones used the phrase jumping at shadows, because the bill's not going to progress. But some of the broader issues obviously still need to be considered. And one of my roles as Minister of Justice this year is working through the process of looking at treaty references across many pieces of legislation and asking the basic question, A, do they need to be there? And B, can we be clearer about what they mean and what they don't mean? Because there is a lot of vagueness and misunderstanding in that process. So that'll be a noisy process, and there'll be a wide variety of views on that as well. So none of these discussions are easy, and nor should they be.
Many ministers, including yourself, you just did it, they'd referenced the coalition deal and how important that is to stick to it.
Sure.
And some of the criticism that I've heard here from iwi leaders is that this government, this coalition, well, particularly the national government, so dedicated to upholding the values of that coalition government, but not the Treaty of Waitangi, which is the founding document. Do they have a point?
No, I don't think they do. I think as a government, and we work very hard to uphold the treaty and our commitments in that. And like any government in a modern era, what we're trying to do is honour the treaty and the treaty commitments, particularly in treaty settlements and a whole range of things, while at the same time never losing sight of the basic expectations of people living in a modern democratic society, which is focused on making a living, dealing with handing out decent quality healthcare and education, and allowing us to thrive in a modern democratic world where people have an expectation about having a broadly equal say on what matters to them and their families and their lives. And so there is friction and tension between these things, and we should not be surprised by that, but we don't shy away from those discussions, and we will never lose sight on the things. If you think of what people are most concerned about right here, right now, as we come tomorrow to celebrate our National Day, is how we're going to make a living in this world and create a standard of living that can sustain the things that we want, and that's primarily what we're focused on.
Because you're the Minister for Treaty Negotiations, one more point from the iwi leaders I heard, one of the other concerns is the Regulatory Standards Bill. Is that a bill that you would support?
Well, yes, it's again part of the broader coalition commitment, but there's a lot of water to go under the bridge as to exactly how that is introduced, and it will go off to Select Committee, and we'll have a debate about that.
Would you like to see some changes to it? For example, the treaty impact assessment that was done on it said that it's basically silent on the treaty.
Well, look, I mean, primarily it was focused around, it is focused around introducing robust cost-benefit analysis into regulation. I think anybody who's trying to build a house today and looking at the extraordinary costs that are imposed by certain regulations is not unreasonably asking, well, have we got that balance right? And if you look across many pieces of legislation, whether it's earthquake strengthening rules or the amount of road cones that we have on our roads, I think there's a fair discussion to be had about that, and that's the broader purpose of that legislation.
With iwi like Ngāti Kahungunu and all those other ones in the regions, having some input into it, would you agree with that?
Well, yes. I mean, again, that comes back to that broader discussion. When you look at the Resource Management Act or the Education Act, there are references to the treaty and the principles and consultation. And I think it's fair enough that we should have a debate about exactly how that should work. And I don't think any of this is a territory that we should not be able to talk about. And that, I think, is the most important message coming out of this.
Your last hat is your media hat.
Oh, yes.
And it's 100 years of national radio, public radio actually. In the last year, it's been a bit tough lately. Hundreds of jobs have been lost. Whole platforms have collapsed.
Yes.
How's the plan coming along?
Well, it's not an industry like any industry that is only something for the government to fix. It is full of incredibly talented and innovative people. Radio New Zealand, of course, continues to be very well funded by the government and continues to do a very important job in terms of informing and New Zealanders and challenging them and giving them the information that they need. And so, I think it's a wonderful thing to celebrate the centenary of RNZ, and we're looking forward to that over this year. The broader landscape, of course, continues to be very challenging, not just here, but all around the world. And so we've got various plans underfoot. We've got a broadcasting bill which is going to change some of the rather arcane rules around advertising, which is important to the broadcasters. And then this broader discussion around the digital online bill is something that we're working our way through, wanting to be, if we possibly can, close as we can be to the Australians as they work through that, and they've changed direction somewhat, so we're watching that closely.
Tēnā koe, thank you for your time. Kia ora. Ko Paul Goldsmith tērā. Ka nui te mihi ki te Māngai Pāho me irirangi te motu nā rāua tēnei kaupapa I tautoko. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back with more mata in March. Nohoro mai.